The title has already given away what this will be about. Even if you do not fully know what antinatalism is, you've surely heard the word tossed around before. Today we will be discussing antinatalism in the eyes of Christianity. Antinatalism is a philosophical view that states that non-existing is better than existing. Antinatalists argue this point by stating that the net experience of life is suffering. Net experience in this case meaning that if you were to add up all the pain and pleasure in life, you would find that you experienced pain more than pleasure. Pain is undesirable, while pleasure is desirable. So anything we do that reaps more pain than pleasure is not worth doing. I would like to interject here to better explain this philosophical metric because I find it is often confused with hedonism. Hedonism, or the common definition of hedonism, is concerned with doing what will bring the most pleasure to us as individuals in the long term. The philosophical metric anti-natalists use is utilitarianism, which is similar to hedonism with one important distinction. Hedonism is used to measure all the pain and pleasure an action will bring on us to decide if it is worth doing. Utilitarianism concerns itself with measuring all the pain and pleasure an action will bring, not only on us, but all of humanity. If you find a wallet lying in the street with money in it, the hedonist perspective will tell you to keep the money, as it will cause you pleasure and no pain. Utilitarian perspective will tell you to surrender the wallet to the police so it can be returned to its original owner. Of course, hedonism and utilitarianism are far more complex than I have made them seem. But for this conversation, all we need to understand is that to judge whether an action is worth doing, we should determine if it causes more pleasure than pain. With this foundation, let us continue exploring the philosophy of antinatalism. Antinatalists hold to three main contentions, those being life guarantees suffering, life does not guarantee pleasure, life is created without that specific life's consent to be created. From these contentions, the anti-natalists say that parents create a life form that will inevitably suffer with the gamble that they will have pleasure in their life, something that is not guaranteed. They postulate that this gamble of pleasure is not inherently bad, as oftentimes we gamble on things with the hope it will produce pleasure. We buy lottery tickets knowing it will cost $10, but hoping the $10 million we can get will offset this loss. The anti-natalists can appreciate this gamble, but they argue that creating life is making that decision for someone else. Similar to if I were to steal money from your wallet and buy a gambling ticket with that money. You would argue I robbed you, but what if I argue back that I've given you the opportunity to win $10 million, an opportunity you did not have before? An anti-natalist would argue that I've done something morally wrong, and as I'm sure you would as well. The anti-natalist differs because they apply this analogy to life, something that is not generally accepted by the population. While antinatalism presents an interesting philosophy, it fails as there's not any evidence that for the average human being, the pain they endure is greater than the suffering they receive. Nor does the universe guarantee they will experience more pleasure than pain. Unfortunately, unlike the secular view of the world, Christianity does guarantee us that the average human experiences more pain than pleasure. And, to add on to that, Christianity tells us that the universe is engineered so that this guarantee is in place. Allow me to walk you through why I've come to this conclusion. First, let us establish that humans are immortal creatures. Once a human is conceived in the womb, they will never die. At least not fully. They may shed their physical bodies, but they do not stop existing. This means that every time a woman becomes pregnant, the parents have pulled a soul from non-existence into existence. And no matter what that soul does, they will never not exist again. You see, Christianity presents a dichotomy, two choices when it comes to eternity. I am sure you know these very well, as we call them heaven and hell. Heaven can be described as a place of total fulfillment, where we will be happy for eternity. Hell, well, hell is the opposite of that. Hell states that we will suffer. Not only will we suffer, but our suffering will never end. We will forever be in pain. No matter how much we wish to die, to stop existing, we will stay in hell. Now, allow us to evaluate whether or not the average human experiences more pain than pleasure in life. Because heaven and hell are eternal, there is no numerical value we can apply to either one. Instead, they are completely polar. Those in heaven experience an infinite amount of pleasure, while those in hell experience an infinite amount of pain. Because these values are equal, they make them very simple to compare. To find the average, we simply need to know the abstract ratio of people in heaven to people in hell. During our talk on Age of Accountability, we answered the question of do more people spend eternity in heaven or hell? We examined Luke 13:23 through 24. Someone asked him, Lord, are only a few going to be saved? He said to them, make every effort to enter through the narrow door, because many, I tell you, will try to enter and will not be able to. From this verse, we concluded that more people will spend eternity in hell. Going forward, I will express this ratio as 2-to-1, although all that is important is that we agree more people spend eternity in pain and not pleasure. The arbitrary ratio I presented above tells us that if a mother has 3 children, One of them will spend eternity in pleasure, while two of them will spend eternity in pain. Infinity minus 2 infinity equals negative infinity. Simple arithmetic. This tells us something we already know, that having these 3 children will inflict more pain on humanity than pleasure. Not only that, but this will actually add an infinite amount of pain that one human must burden in hell. If we apply the metric of utilitarianism, the answer of is it good to have kids or not becomes clear. Allow me to draw an analogy to make this point clearer. You happen upon a man on the street who asks if you want to play a game of 3-card Monte. The rules are simple. There are 3 cups on the table. Underneath one cup is $10. It costs $5 to play. And if you choose the wrong cup, you get nothing. Anyone who has heard of 3-card Monte is well aware that it is a scam, as if you add up all the possible outcomes, plus $5, minus $5, minus $5, it equals minus $5, meaning that you are more likely to lose money, $5, than gain it. This is a direct parallel to having a child, as it is more likely that kid you force into existence will suffer for eternity than he will be happy for eternity. The only difference between the analogy and the real world is that in the real world, you are gambling with someone's eternity. In conclusion, having children is evil in the Christian view, as we will be creating a life that will more than likely spend eternity in pain, wishing it was never created. Conceiving a human with the knowledge that in the future they will wish they were never created is indefensible. Opposed to the secular view on antinatalism, in Christianity it is provable that humans suffer more than they do not. And on top of that, this fact cannot be changed by the universe itself, God in this case, as he has ordained it. Many argue against antinatalism, as they say that even if it is true that people suffer more now, this does not always have to be the case. Perhaps in the future, we will better the world to the point that people will suffer less than they are happy. But in Christianity, it is an unchangeable principle that people will suffer more. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate you tuning in and listening to my thoughts on this. I really want to hear your response on this, like what your thoughts are. Do you agree? Do you disagree? So if you want to comment that or email me, I promise you I will read every single one of them because I really do care about what your guys' opinion on this is. Right now, there's another video on my channel about age of accountability, and really in that video, we're just discussing if a child dies young, do they go to heaven or hell? And if they go to heaven, what are the implications of it, negative or positive? I really enjoyed making that video. It's a little dark, but I think you'll enjoy it. And if you want to support me at all, hit the subscribe button. That will tell me that people actually like these videos. I love Christianity. I love theology. And really the purpose of this channel is just to push Christians to think more critically about their religion so that they have a very well-established, good foundation going forward. The next video will be releasing next week. It's going to be about why Jesus told us about hell, if it's a fear-mongering tool, if he was trying to warn us, what was going on with that. So make sure you mark that on your calendar or whatever. I'll see you there.